Howdy, folks. This is Ted Lasso, your favorite optimistic American football coach turned English football coach. And welcome to the Richmond Way, a Ted Lasso Rewatch podcast. So grab your biscuits, put on your AFC Richmond scarf, and let's embark on this journey together.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Richmond Way podcast. Our first of 2025. We are now coming back to you in the future. There's flying cars everywhere. People are doing futuristic things. Believe me, there's no way that this was pre-recorded at an earlier date at all whatsoever. But with me, as per usual, is Miss Bronnie Marie Williams, and I'm now actually getting the camera gestures right when I do it.
Hi! You did get that right. That was impressive.
Yeah, I'm learning. And then joining us for the first time is Hannah, who people may know as @WrittenDust on Twitter. Yes, it's called Twitter. Welcome, Hannah.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
It
I've been
is
having
true.
fun chatting
Thank
with
you.
you before the episode.
Yeah.
And if you guys joined our Patreon, maybe you'll get to listen to that. Just
Maybe.
It was interesting.
maybe.
There was ghosts.
Yeah.
There were ghosts, actually. That's true.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, we
ghosts
could
are
not-
year-round, not
Yeah, we
just
could
in
not-
October or November.
Yeah, we couldn't fight them all.
No,
So there's too many ghosts.
Too
too
many.
many.
I mean, A Christmas Carol is a ghost story.
Mhm.
And there's
True.
Christmas songs about telling scary ghost stories. So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
And this is fine because it was definitely not recorded before Thanksgiving or anywhere closer to that when Christmas stuff is acceptable to talk about.
I mean, technically, even
Marc.
if we're recording this in January, this is technically before Thanksgiving.
I don't
That's how-
technically know when Thanksgiving is, so
I mean, Thanksgiving doesn't exist in Australia, so I mean, there
nope.
you go.
I guess it's okay then.
All good.
And for us, it's one day of the week, and for Hannah, it's a different day of the week because
hmm
time travel and international date lines and all
Living
that
in the
fun.
future.
Yeah?
hmm
And
We have flying
So-
cars.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah. So do we. They're on the market now. Right?
Mhm.
well, I mean, I figure Australia would get that first, though, right? That makes sense.
Well, only because of the time difference.
Just that 12-hour.
And we invent stuff.
Yes, also true. Yes. So this episode, we're going to be talking about the 5th episode of season 2 of Ted Lasso. But before we do that, we're going to try to change things up a little bit on the show and recalibrate things a little bit just to make it a little bit more fun and engaging for you people listening and or watching to us. So what we thought would be fun, and we're throwing this at you right now, Hannah, is how
Oh.
did you get into the Ted Lasso universe? Like, how did you get into the show? And then what of the show drew you into doing the art that you've been doing for the show because of that?
Yeah. Let's just start
Yeah.
with how you got into the show and what made you want to watch it and become a fan of it.
Well, I actually avoided it initially. It was one of those things that it was everywhere and way too popular, and I was like, I don't really want to watch a show about football. And my friend Andrew kept, tweeting about it and talking about it and saying how good it was and you really love it and trying to get, different friends of ours to like it. And then I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And then I watched the first episode, and as soon as the first scene with Rebecca, and it was like a series of comments of me going, who is that? And then she's like, oh, her name's Hannah Waddingham. And I went, her name's Hannah? What? She's like, yep. She's like, and she's got an amazing singing voice too. And I was done. And that was me in, locked. And then from there, I just fell in love with the story and the characters and all of them. And it was really good. And the artwork just comes from there. And it was a pretty
Nice.
gradual progression. But I initially didn't plan to watch it at all. And
Yeah.
now I love it.
That was kind of similar to what happened to me. It was one of my best friends was like, you have to watch it. And I was just busy. And I was like, I'm fine. I don't want to. Like, I have too much I have to do. I don't need another show. It's fine. And then I went up to visit her in Seattle, and I was staying with her, and she said, okay, you're in my house. Now you have to watch it. And I was like, oh, crap. Okay. And then I did. And like, she keeps looking at me during the episode, sitting next to me, like, do you like it? Do you like it? Do you like it? And by the end of
Yeah,
it,
I
the
do that with
first one, I was
everybody I
like,
know now.
yep. I was like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty good. Okay. She's like, well, we're going to watch another one. I'm like, okay. So there was no getting out of it at that point. But yeah, it's
No,
funny how that happens sometimes.
yeah, and I'd come off the back of it was during COVID, and I'd been in my house by myself, and I'd watched Gilmore Girls, and then got to the end of Gilmore Girls and started it again, I think maybe 4 times, and then she was like, "You really need to watch this show," and then so I don't know why I watched Gilmore Girls 4 times in a row. It was a
I mean,
COVID thing. Everyone's brains.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think in 2020 a lot of people are watching comfort shows that would just bring them comfort, which I think is segueing from that is that's why so many people got into Ted Lasso around that time too, is because it was a good show that brought people comfort. And I think, Bonnie, I think you attributed it to being like a show that was giving you like a big like getting a big hug from a show,
Yeah.
basically, like a show that felt like a warm hug.
Yeah,
So
I think so. It was just nice. It didn't make me think too hard, because when you're at the end of the long day, that's why people like mindless TV sometimes, because they don't want to have to think about the 20 different subplots and all the characters. Like, you can't just kind of half in and half out with Game of Thrones,
oh yeah,
because there's so many different characters, and you're trying to keep track of like this family and who did they fight, and then they go flashbacks. And it's not like that with Ted Lasso, which is great. So you can just sit there and enjoy it and appreciate all the fun things about it and the positive moments, and it's very uplifting and it's good-hearted, and that's something that's really nice. But you don't have to sit there kind of cramming your brain trying to understand. I know that makes me sound like I'm really dumb, but you don't have to turn on your brain and do more work, especially at the end of a very long day when your brain is
Yeah.
just done.
Ted Lasso does do a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And at
Nothing
least it
makes
doesn't
sense.
have like Game of Thrones, where a lot of them have very similar names.
Oh
Yes.
geez, yeah. or they like rhyme with one another, or there's
Uh-huh.
and that's just like a part of the plot, is that a bunch of people have the same name, and that's why like House of the Dragons even happens, is because mistaken names. That's the whole reason that show happens.
Still didn't catch up on season 2, but yeah, there's so many similar names, and then
Oh, my heart
it's
still
just
hurts for Rhaenyra. No,
yeah.
Rhaenys.
Yeah,
See,
point
there you go.
proven.
All I'll say is that there's houses and there's dragons, so
Yep.
be
Yeah,
prepared.
Well, yeah.
I'm just behind. I'll get there eventually. It's fine.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. So with this episode too, kind of like going off of like it, talking about like things that kind of don't necessarily have to have like a multitude of like it, like a Chris Nolan like Tenet plot to it, which that's good in and of itself. Maybe not the audio, but like most rom-coms tend to fit like a specific formula most of the time. And like with this episode, it's kind of trying to lean into that, and it's fitting very much into kind of trying to do that for like the storyline within this episode. So like this episode aired just after Carol the Bells in 2021, in August 20th of 2021. And the very short synopsis that I found for this one that I'll read off to y'all right now, if I can find it quickly. After a meek Nathan complains about not being able to get a table at a restaurant, Keeley and Rebecca teach him how to be more aggressive. Ted asks Roy to help a player who's having difficulty, eventually leading Roy to reconsider his role with the Richmond team. Rebecca's online relationship with the mystery man heats up. And the player that Roy's helping is Isaac McAdoo. So I don't know why the thing had to be like, we won't name Isaac in this for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of weird. Now, was there anything like in this when you guys watched it that kind of like stood out to you on the rewatch that maybe when you watched the episode on your original go, maybe, or like a second time that you watched it that you hadn't noticed before this time around? Hannah and then Bonnie.
Well, the other way around, Bonnie and then Hannah.
Okay,
Yeah.
or that way.
So much of this, it felt like a blur, and I think because this season I was working while I was watching it, so I was kind of not, I don't want to say fully paying attention, but I also have mashed potato brain from the last few years. So even though it's a rewatch, it's like I'm watching it again for the first time because I probably had it on in the background while I was sitting and I wasn't actively just fully watching it. So I think there was a lot of new things that I didn't remember. I remembered Nate and a lot of that and going like, oh, I remember this. And I remember we're kind of teeter-tottering on that edge with him. But the other stuff with Higgins and his wife, I don't remember that from the first time around, and that was really sweet. And Mary is the nicest, and I love her, and like it's so wholesome and wonderful, and that was really nice to rediscover that and go like, oh my god, that's so cute, especially after we got to talk with her on the show. That was great.
Yeah, I agree. How about you, Hannah?
I didn't know the first time watching it that she was his real wife. And so it added something to it, watching it again, knowing that. Because I think it was special either way, but it was like, oh, that's how they probably really are. So I was like, oh, that's really lovely. But yeah, no, I have a tendency to notice things that when I'm watching it with other people, they don't. And I get really annoying when they don't notice what I notice. So I'm going, it was more like reminding of the things that I noticed the first time around, like Rebecca with the biscuits, and that being sort of like an emotional crutch thing that she uses, because the way that she just sort of chomped on them when she was talking to Higgins, or no, sorry, when she sent the message of what she wants to find on the app.
And it throws the phone across.
And then through the phone, because she does it a few times where she's like takes this big chunk out of the biscuits, and it's like, oh, okay, you need some kind of emotional crutch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big one. You were gonna say?
I was gonna say really quick that's an interesting thing to note with the biscuits too, because that also seems, Sylvie agrees, why she likes the biscuits so much from like the first time that she was given them by Ted, because it seems like it's inherently like the same way like smell can kind of like bring back memories for people, or like the film Ratatouille, which spoiler alert, will be brought up in a future episode of Ted Lasso with Rebecca talking to somebody on the banter app. But the film Ratatouille also like talks or shows that like food can also like do that and like bring you back to like a core memory of like how you felt at a certain time. So, and it seems like that's what the biscuits kind of do for Rebecca too. So it's almost like giving her comfort in two different ways. Like she's got all this stuff going on up here, but then like eating that takes away a bit of the stress from what she just sent in the app, as she's like, all right, but
yeah, she takes like comfort and strength from them. I love it. It's not in this episode, but it's in like season 1 where he gives her the biscuits and she immediately just throws them under her nose and she's like, it's like,
oh yeah.
My mum refers to Ted as her crack dealer, which is kind of funny.
I mean, who's to say what's in that recipe? I mean,
she did like them instantly.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for what Beard went to. Yeah, Sylvie really agrees. What Beard went to prison or got arrested for stealing a loaf of meth. So maybe Ted's put some meth in the short.
I think we're reaching a little bit, but yeah.
Probably just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else were you saying after? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was gonna say like all Nate's insecurities like the first time watching it through, I noticed that there was a lot of references to his insecurities, but watching it again, you're like, oh, there's actually many references to his insecurities starting to come through. It's probably one of the more prominent episodes for it initially.
Hmm.
Like with the making himself big and the mirror and trying to get a table and the way he reacted to Roy appearing on the pitch and all the little things or just the look on his face in certain situations where they've said something and then you see his expression. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, he's not processing this in a healthy way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really noticed a lot more of that stuff with Nate this time that I mean, which I think is partially because like we know what's gonna happen with
Yes.
Nate this time, but
Yeah.
it also it's kind of an interesting thing too because it's almost like being like Ted that the first time through watching it because like he didn't like pick up on or notice like these little like kind of small things that Nate was going through and reacting to, which like Nate still is making all of those choices himself. So like you can't like we can give him a little bit of grace, but he's still he's still at the end of the day choosing the choices that he's making to
Yeah.
do. But yeah, like like even from like so like the beginning of the episode here to um like trying to think like so there's like the beginning of the episode he talks to Jade's first appearance. Hello Jade. Don't call that call forward there. Which I liked that too when he is first talking to her there and he says Jade and she's like, oh, how'd you know my name? He's like, no, that's what anniversary it is. It's their Jade anniversary. So I like that kind of that's almost like a rom-com thing too, where to be like this weird kind of random like cosmic like little coincidence of like a kismet type thing like that, like oh that's it was my parents Jade anniversary, that's what your name is though, so maybe this is our meet cute for this. um but so I thought that was kind of interesting for it. But then also I really like Nate's jacket in that too, and I don't think they ever wear that jacket again because it's like an AFC Richmond just like I don't know, like windbreaker or something like that, but it's got like the plaid. I was like, I want an AFC Richmond jacket like that because it's not like the puffy one, but it's just like it's like a light. I don't know. It's like I want that jacket. Give me that jacket. um, but yeah, and then like you said too, like we have Keeley and I was gonna call her Hannah, Keeley and Rebecca, um, trying to help him be more assertive, like later on, and like him still not taking that properly, or like Ted bringing up the thing about like someone needing to like a big dog kind of energy to talk to Isaac.
It's also
And
interesting, so the way that they
yeah,
film that too, because the big dog energy and stuff, but also in all the scenes with Rebecca and Keeley and Nate as well, they really played on how big. Well, I don't want to say big, but the height and size difference between Keeley and Nate and Rebecca, the way that
oh yeah,
she's sitting down the whole time, and then when she stands up, and it's very significant the difference when she does stand up. It's like
yeah,
he's feeling small, and they're showing, yeah, like that filming choice is clever too.
yeah, just like accentuating like
Yeah,
tall. And I don't even think like Hannah Monagham's actually like that. Like she's not you know over 6 feet tall. I think
in heels she is,
oh well yeah. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
and she was.
if she wasn't wearing heels, I don't think that she's that tall. I think I don't
I think she
know.
said 5'11" or something.
Okay, so oh yeah, because I remember I looked that up. I was like, oh, I'm the same height as Hannah Waddingham because I
Yeah,
always thought like she was like massively tall as well too, just because
Yep.
of like
5'11".
that.
yeah.
Hmm. Interesting.
which is deceptive as well, like on the show, because I didn't realize initially how tall she was, and also how tall the men in the show are,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
because
yeah.
she towers over most of them, and then you realize, oh, hang on, Brett Goldstein, Jason Sudeikis, they're all 6 foot, and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and you're like, they don't look, yeah, so
That's true.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And
sidetrack. Go.
oh no, you're right. But yeah, like you were saying there too, like all the little things with Nate, um, from that, like there's like going from that scene to then like him trying to do that himself, and then the whole weird thing of him and finding his thing where he spits in the mirror, which is still gross.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I watch it like this. I can't.
yeah, but yeah,
Nope.
well, I didn't think of it while watching it, but like the big dog energy thing, and then like Ted laughing, but like not on purpose, but kind of like, oh, like he thought he was joking, but it just kind of um like came out there. But then the
Mm.
fact that he then goes and gets Roy to be the one to talk to Isaac. So like you have that
Mm.
thing with like Roy being on the news when he's at a Taste of Athens at the beginning, and he tries to use
Mm.
like knowing Roy to help get that table, and then
Yeah.
Ted going to get Roy to do the thing for Isaac that Nate was going to offer to do, and then like Nate had already been like doing the coaching thing and everything like that, and then Roy then joining the coaching staff by the ending of the episode, and then you see like how like all these little things, at least throughout like these, I don't know how many days or few days it's supposed to be within the course of this episode, but like you see how like all of that's kind of like built itself up a little bit in Nate's mind by the end of this episode.
Mm.
Which like you said, this episode like definitely layers in a lot more of that stuff than it had in episodes past. It's like it really starts to ratchet up like the Nate like
Mm.
fall evolution.
Mm.
It is interesting how you see all that happening on a rewatch, but initially the first time, what happened with Nate and what happened at the end of season 2 kind of came as much out of nowhere for us as it did for Ted. Like,
Yeah.
they were quite brilliant in the way that they rolled it out. Like, it was so subtle. It's blaringly obvious now, but it was so subtle in the lead up when you didn't know, to then
Mm.
he just suddenly blew up. And it's like
Yeah.
that whole thing of not knowing what's going on inside someone else's head. Like, and as well, he's feeling all of that towards Roy and then doesn't realize that Roy sees him as knowing so much about the game.
Yeah.
And having quite a lot of respect for him and his ability. And he does, he said something about it in another episode later, but he's like, he does all that stuff and then I do this stuff. And the way that he
Yeah.
phrased it, I can't remember. But yeah, it's not knowing what's going on with other people. It's played out really clever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. What do you think, Bonnie?
No, I was saying I agree.
I was gonna say with that too is that it kind of goes, because like this episode, like I said, it brings up like the whole like theming of like rom-coms, and it like even has like it throws cleverly into the plot line of this episode. Like it's even like using, like the episode is like bookended by 2 rainbow songs. Like you have the Swinging on a Rainbow by Frankie Avalon at the beginning of the episode, and then you have She's a Rainbow by the Rolling Stones at the end of the episode. Um, and I remember when we did the Do the Rightest Thing episode, I even noticed Higgins' ringtone in that. They were kind of like setting up the ringtone there, because you hear um, the Rolling Stones Rainbow song on his phone there for Julie there as well. Uh, but I thought that was interesting, and then like even like the setup of like Nate like going into like the shop and like meeting Jade, that's kind of like a rom-com type of thing. But then you have, I like how they turn it on its head in here too, with Ted trying to basically court Roy to become
Mm.
a coach on the team, and like really like play into like all of that, and like the whole scene in like in the beginning of this too, like where they're like watching like the footage from a past game, and like Ted has this whole spiel about like believing in communism, rom-communism that is, and then like explaining to it like, you know, how romantic comedies with, you know, with different casts like Tom Hanks or Meg Ryan, Julia Roberts, Hugh Grant, you know all the, I liked the thing in there too with like the three Kates, Beckinsale, Hudson, Winslet, and then Nate says, "Forgot Blanchett," and
Mm-hmm.
Beard is like different spelling. Uh, and then yeah, like the Renee Zellweger for the Bridget Jones films, but like him saying like, I mean, he says,
I believe in communism.
Sorry,
Rom-Communism.
Point is, felt.
If all those attractive people with their amazing apartments and interesting jobs, usually in some creative field, can go through some lighthearted struggles and still end up happy, then so can we.
Then so can we. And I almost think that's like almost like part of like the basic like backbone of this show too, is kind of using that as like a basis for its stories too. Where it's almost like the world of Ted Lasso is like living in that kind of like a rom-com-esque like reality in a way. Just because, just because of like between that and then like with believing that that everything's gonna work out in the end, not necessarily like the way that like when you think of everything's gonna work out, but like it'll work out in a way that it's like meant to, and how it was always kind of meant to, which I think is like a good way to think of stuff too, is just like you might be like sad for like something happened or like it ended or whatever it may be, or whatever's going on, or you're like everything will work out to the point of like where like you'll be directed from point A to maybe point Z and then back to C, but that's how it was meant to happen, because otherwise if that didn't happen, the cause and effect of those other things wouldn't have brought you back to that point you were meant to get to at one point or another anyways. So I thought that whole speech in that scene I think is like a good kind of embodiment of like what the themes of like the show are about in a way.
That's why I made that note about as well, that it was as much a message for the audience as it was for the players. It's like this isn't gonna play out the way you expect it to, not like every other show you've ever watched. Like
Yeah.
this is gonna be different. Just sit down and enjoy it. Which I think was nice, and especially because it's kind of pretty much at the halfway point for the whole show.
Yeah, that's true.
Sort of.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Nice. And like, so like going with the rom-com stuff there too, I'll get the rom-com stuff out of the way. Is that like even like him like while he's trying to like court, I don't know, that's like such a kind of old way to phrase it, but like I can't think of a better way for
It's true though.
For yeah, like because he's not trying to date Roy, so he's like literally trying to, I don't know, but yeah, trying to court Roy to become a coach. But like whether he's like going to the kebab place or like, you know, like I'll have what he's having, you know, obviously, when Harry met Sally with that, and then you have stuff like with like Rebecca's handle on banter and the person that she's talking to's handle on banter, both being allusions to You've Got Mail, the Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan handles in that film. And then just like the other stuff in there too, like there's even like the whole back and forth that he has there with Roy at one point where he's like, I'm sorry, Roy.
I'm sorry, Roy, but I came here tonight because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life coaching with somebody, you want the rest of your life to begin ASAP.
Please stop.
You complete our team.
You're an arsehole.
I'm also just a coach standing in front of a boy asking
Listen, I'm never coming back to Richmond. Not now, not ever. Now fuck off.
Boy, but I came here tonight because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life coaching with somebody, you want the rest of your life to begin ASAP. And he's like, you complete our team. I'm just a coach
It's
standing
like
in
so
front
many
of a
different
boy.
references.
Yeah, asking him if he's like, and then at the end of it, he's like, as you wish. So it's like how he's able to like, you know, smashing like 8 different things there, and then like the whole ending to the episode is basically like a rom-com ending of like Roy's like telling like the other like talk show dudes like, no, I gotta go, and then like the whole running down the streets for it. And then of course he's got to have
Love it.
the right thing where he like F's his leg at that one point and it starts like hobbling. Has to take the rickshaw.
That
And
house, actually, I think that house that he hobbled his leg in front of is in a rom-com.
that would make sense. Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
sure that Sudeikis or whoever else would want to like layer that into,
Mm,
you know, like the building of the episode there. Uh,
mm.
but yeah, and then we have the Reba McEntire thing to pick up his tickets there. Um, but yeah, I liked how that was all like peppered in to this episode, and then like even him when he's like doing the stuff earlier in the episode with uh the the pundits there. He has the whole back and forth there that I thought was kind of funny. Where when he's also when him and Ted are having that back and forth too, he's like Ted's like it's kind of like all the nipples in that movie Showgirls. Halfway through, you don't even notice. You just kind of get sucked into the narrative. Just like that. That feels like a very Ted thing to say. But I don't know. Like, what do you guys think of? I guess like with the Roy storyline in this, and then like how that it like intersects with like what Isaac's going through in this episode too.
I like that it was sort of more referencing like Roy's love of football. Like his rom-com was with the game kind of thing. So him running from the studio to the pitch was that he loves being on the pitch, and he was running back to what he loves after, yeah. So I like that layer of it for Roy, is that he was sort of like um the main guy in the rom-com in this particular situation, and then he's running back to his love
Mm.
that he tried to walk away from, which is a very
Yeah,
rom-com thing.
that's a good way of putting it. I liked what he said, and I've had to do this with my own work, but he said like you did this for fun. Like you
Mm,
did this when you were little for fun, even when you were getting hurt and it wasn't outwardly fun. You were still having fun. You need to find the fun with it again and get out of your head. And that's hard when you're doing something professional because then you think about the professional side and you forget to have fun. And I've gone through that just with my job because it's like, oh, well, I
mhm,
have to get these invoices out and I have to do these auditions and I have to do this stuff. And you get caught up in the business side of it. But like my job is literally playing pretend.
mm,
And it's so easy to get caught up in, I have to book this, I have to book this. And you start to suck the fun out of it when your bills are dependent on being paid by that thing. So that was kind of like a nice reminder just to even myself of like, yeah, I'm trying to find the fun with it. And instead of getting caught up in, I did this audition and I felt really good about it and I was almost booked. I was on an avail and they let go and they went in another direction. And that can really kind of send you into a tailspin. But just going like, I had fun with that audition and I gave it my all, but I had fun when I did it. That's all I have control over is having the fun in what I do. Because if I'm not having fun with this, why am I doing it? And I thought that was
mm.
just a great reminder in this episode that I don't think I caught the first time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I like that kind of point of reference with that too, because that's I think anybody that's like in any kind of like creative job, especially if it's like one that you were like actively like pursuing to try to get for any period of time, and then you get it and you're like, but I have to keep making this be fun to do. So
Mm-hmm.
that like you don't have like either like the creative burnout from it or just like general burnout from it. Like this has never been a job to do. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but it's like not. It's like a thing that's fun to do, but like and the animation one that I do, like I had done that one for years, but then I started working at a call center for a period of time, which was me sitting at a computer with a headset on that had a mic on it, talking to people all day. So then the last thing that I wanted to do was then go do my podcast where I sat in front of a computer with a headset on talking to people. So that's why like that animation podcast that I do like had like a hiatus of like 5 6 years just because like it wasn't fun to sit and do that because it was too like associated, yeah, with, she agrees, with doing the thing I didn't like to do. Um, so I like what they said they're boundary with just like trying to basically make sure that you're finding ways to make sure that you continue to make things that you like doing fun.
Yeah.
I have that fear as well with my artwork because I have people constantly say, you really should do that as a job or, find a way to turn that into your everyday. But then I have the fear of it not being fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's my outlet. It's what I like to do on the side of things. And I do little jobs here and there, but it's not my main job. So, and I don't know if I could make it that. Or
Mm.
if I did, I'd be a bit worried that it would lose the fun. It end up turning into, paperwork and networking and invoicing and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
You also have to find
Yeah.
that
that's the fear of that.
the Goldilocks equilibrium with it, more or
Yeah.
less. Balance as all things should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that keeps a lot of people from moving forward with things because, as much as I have maybe a bad day when I'm on an avail check for a job that would pay my bills for a couple years and then it goes to somebody else, yeah, that really sucks. And those are the days where I'm like, damn it, is it me? Is it because I'm not good enough? It's like, no, that's the way it goes. But did I have fun when I did it? But like, people hear that stuff and it's that fear of success. I think sometimes we're so afraid of what if happen, like what if I succeed, then it's going to be a
Yeah.
whole bunch of new things I've never done before. Like I've been doing this
Mhm.
full time for 6 years now, and there have been so many things that I learned that I didn't know before, but I had to learn to do it. And even on my worst day with my job, I still love what I do. And I have to
Mm.
remind myself of that sometimes when I'm tired and it's been a 16-hour day or whatever. But I go like, oh yeah, this is what I was fighting to do for so long. And even though there's still so
Mhm.
many unknowns and so many variables, just knowing like I built this thing and I'm doing it and reminding myself to have fun while I'm doing it is great. And I don't know, I know I'm kind of rambling now, but the fear of what happens if I succeed is very, very real for people. And I think sometimes it keeps people from moving forward
Mm.
with something that they want to do. And I think if it's something you want to do and the time is right to leap, like you'll do it. And if it's something that,
Mm.
you maybe say like, I like what I do now and I like this on the side and I don't want all of my stability to be dependent on this thing that is fun for me. That's also totally valid. I think
Mm.
there's validity in both of those things.
Yeah. And I say that, but I am at a point at the moment where I could potentially be going in that direction. So
Mhm.
I'm like, do I want to? Do I not? I don't know.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of work involved in doing it. So I'm a
Yeah.
bit, mm,
Yeah. But it'll
yeah,
work out the way it should,
yeah.
the way that it will.
So you
Mm-hmm.
do believe in rom-communism?
No,
Haha.
the only rom-com I believe in is Nobody Wants This. And Clueless, I guess, but that's because
Mm.
It,
Clueless takes place out here.
there you go. It counts. That's
Yeah.
what it says. It says in our about page.
Mhm.
Isn't Clueless based on Emma?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
All the good ones are based off Shakespeare stuff.
Well, Emma isn't
That's not
Shakespeare,
Shakespeare.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
I
That's
know.
Austen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm just gonna
Bye, Mark. See you later.
Bye.
Anyways,
Yeah, I love Austen. Let's talk about Austen.
let's do it. Let's do it. Okay.
Oh, he's back.
He's back.
I know.
Next time, it'll just be you and me.
Yeah.
It's talking about
For sure.
adaptations and Clueless and Jane Austen.
Mm-hmm. Lost
And
in
Shakespeare.
Austen's good too.
Oh, that's good to know.
Mm.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
That one's fun.
Actually, surprisingly good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect to like that because I hate zombies.
It's a good movie.
But We're off
Zombies
track.
aren't my favorite in the horror genre. It's just
Worst,
totally
hate
like
'em.
way after Halloween, so it's okay to talk about.
Absolutely.
It's like months after.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a few days ago.
No.
Hey,
Absolutely
we don't
not.
have it here.
Yeah. See? Doesn't exist. Bonnie's like, no, I'm never going to Australia. No.
We have the decorations. It's just not a
Mhm.
big thing to go trick or treating.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't here either, so nobody came by our house.
Oh.
I bought all this candy. Now I have to eat it all.
I mean,
God.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
no.
like it's like 2-month-old candy now too.
Yeah, well, if you put the
Starting
Reese's
to
cups in the
fester.
freezer, it's fine. That's a hack for anybody listening. Put your Reese's cups in the freezer. Thank me later.
Tim Tams in the freezer. Same thing.
Oh, that's good to know.
Double coat.
One thing I was gonna ask you is, what did you guys? So because it was playing off of a thing from When Harry Met Sally. What did you guys think of the couple that breaks the fourth wall and is like talking to the audience in this episode? They're like straight up looking at the camera, telling you their backstory.
Thought it was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
really
it's like-
think much of it as any kind of plot point. It was just the rom-com aspect of the show. I just thought it was a nice little segue.
Yeah. I was just wondering because like if there's between like this and then Carol the Bells, there's like this showing this tiny little bit of like, I don't know, like magic slash surrealness to the Lasso world now too, between like doing that there and then like, Santa Claus.
I do like
This
that
can-
there's a touch of that where it could be real or it could be not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did
And then
like
we'll
that. The Santa Claus flying over.
Yeah. And then like we'll
Mm.
see this couple in the season 3 finale again too. They'll be at like that last
Mhm.
game there too. But
I
just
did
remember.
like that.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
You're
No,
good.
I thought
Go ahead.
it was kind of playing on the fact that there's people that go to football games and any kind of sports games, but they go their entire lives, and their families go, and people meet at the field, and I thought it was kind of playing on the love of the game, in that these people have been going since they were children and they've been together all this time. And there was a thing online, what I saw was a photo of a couple sitting in the stands, and it had the year, and then the next photo the woman was sitting by herself, and then the next photo they had cutouts of this couple. I can't remember which game it was, but they had been going every single year, and I thought it was kind of like that kind of love for the football and the fans.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Sorry.
No,
But it is, people make it a whole thing. It's quite lovely in that, and I'm not a person that goes to live games or watches sports on TV, but that aspect of it to draw attention to, I thought was really lovely, especially considering Rebecca's speech later in international break.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
like
true.
it's very much about the love of the game and the fans.
Mm.
See, like one of the other things in this episode that I noticed, I just remembered, is that like back in the episode, or back in the scene where Roy and Ted are at the kebab place, and Roy asks them to take the photo down of him.
Mm.
Do you guys notice that one of the other photos was there hanging on the wall?
Jason's uncle.
Yeah, George went.
Yeah.
There was a nice George
Oh,
George
that's
Wendt
went. That's
funny.
it.
picture up there.
There's
But
another
I
one.
remem-
There's 3 pictures there, isn't there?
yeah, I don't recall what the third one is, but I thought what was funny about the Roy one too is that which probably many Roy can't. I don't know why I just had a weird random accent on that. Roy Kent fans would probably say this about him too, but his signature on his photo said, "Yum, Roy Kent." for
I'm just
for like
scrolling to see who the third one is.
Sorry.
Oh, the third one is Marcus Mumford.
Oh, that makes sense too.
Yeah.
That's fun. There you go.
Yeah. I
Little
can't see what it says though.
But was there anything else that we haven't like touched on that you guys wanted to bring up, or like just not necessarily like themes or elements, or maybe just like production stuff from the episode that like you noticed or thought about?
I
Really
can't hear
great
that song
comedic-
without thinking of the episode. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you're fine.
Yeah.
No,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
that no. You go. It's all good.
Oh, I was just saying I can't hear that song without thinking of the show now. Yeah.
That's true. Oh, for Rainbow.
I like when shows do that sometimes. When it's like you have a good memory with a song. That's really nice.
Mm.
Yeah.
You
Ready,
would say
set,
that comedic element?
Yeah, I think it had really good comedic beats and elements in this episode. I thought it was pretty snappy, and also Rebecca's hair, brilliant, looked
Yeah.
great. I was like, dang. And the idea that, Nate is like, oh, you're always, you command every room you walk into. Like, it must be so easy for you. And it's like, no, it's not actually. She had to learn that too. And the idea that maybe there is a bigger understanding between the two of them because he thinks it just comes naturally to her. And she's like, no, you think I command attention and respect when I walk into a room full of men? Like, and just, I liked that. And as much as I was like, yeah, help out Nate, I was like, oh no, this is going to backfire. Because you could kind of start to see it, and that was great. But also, I don't know, I love the girl power and like girls teaming up, help out the guy because he's kind of clueless when it comes to this stuff. I like that
What
part
was
of it. But
interesting too about, sorry, when you said about Nate seeing her as whenever she walks into a room, but he, in the pilot, when he bolts from her as well, like he has all these assumptions about people, and he just assumes that about Rebecca, that he's terrified of her initially,
Oh, yeah.
and then
Or
to
like
have that opinion of her as well.
Or
Yeah.
like even
Like,
this season 1 finale, where like he thought he was being fired and like immediately kind of like goes off on
called her
Rebecca
a
there
shrew.
too.
Yeah.
So
I
like
wanted
you can
to punch him.
like these. I mean, like that version of Nate is like there, and you can see that it's just like I said
bubbling.
earlier, like he still is making all these own choices. Like he still had all that stuff happening, but he's still making the choices that he's making. So he's still
It's kind of
responsible.
sad that he's doing that, because he's like he's been giving options every step of the way, and he's seeing the way that they are, and he's choosing to assume the worst.
Yeah.
Like they give him the opportunity every single time, and he just constantly is choosing the wrong way, which is disappointing. But people do that when they're too far in their own head.
Yeah, I mean that's like the whole thing like that. Like Roy will eventually say, but like Ted kind of talks about it too. It's like none of us know what like you or me or whoever else is like going through on a day-to-day basis. So treat people like that, because you don't know what's going on in
Just
each
be
other's lives.
kind.
So just be nice. That's it. Just do that.
That's it.
Yeah. That's the moral of Ted Lasso, is that whole kind of thing. Is like Weird segue from that, but the
Hmm.
one of the quotes that I liked the most from this episode, as we're kind of like closing out, is that I don't remember what his. Do you guys remember what the old coach's name is? I can't remember. It was off the top of my head.
George.
George. I should remember that name of all names. That was my dad's name. But he says, under Ted Lasso, Richmond, well, they're like a woman behind the wheel. I was like, first off, F off, George. Completely lost. Oh, if I had read the rest of the quote, George, didn't you lose your license drunk driving? That was an allergic reaction to my medication. That the same medication that made you piss your pants.
Mm-hmm.
So I just remember that made me laugh, and then the fact that like Nate later in the episode tries to also whistle in that scene talking about rom-communism, and it's like
Hmm.
like a soft whistle, and Ted's like, "Yeah, I gave you an indoor whistle," after like calling back to like all the times that like he had blown the whistle inside. It was like super loud.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, outside of that, like I think I've read off most of like the stuff that like really stood out to me in the episode. Oh, there's the Rebecca saying, "Did he just say tooting?" Um, I liked that little bit in there, but other than that, I think it was just like overall, it's a really compact but full episode that has like it hits like kind of all like the like Ted Lasso kind of isms throughout the episode. Like it's got
Hmm.
a movie reference. It fits in a theme like that. It's got someone over here doing this, like helping somebody else out. Someone over here doing this that's going through something else, and that these stories also about somebody else helping somebody else out. So, I think overall I enjoyed it too. And when you said Blur earlier, I wanted to make a joke, because I was like, oh, was that because there's a Blur song in this episode?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't think of anything else for myself. Was there any other lines or anything that stood out to either of you that we haven't talked about yet before we close out for this one?
Rebecca on the app actually stood out because the way that so it's set up in the show that it's a brand new app. It's
Oh yeah.
it's still trying to grow its audience, and then it's also made very clear that Keeley's trying to get the players on the app. So
Mhm.
it's quite obvious once you look at it that it's gonna happen that she's gonna accidentally end up talking to one of these players. Like it's all set there that it was much more blaringly obvious than we thought it was gonna be.
Yeah,
Mm,
I
it
would
was set
agree.
up. Yeah,
That
right.
Yeah.
that reminded me quickly is that was where one of the, I know Bonnie's not a Ted Becca person, but this was one of the like the key linchpins to like some people with Ted Becca stuff, was that there's this editing kind of manipulation right here too, where she's like chatting on the
No,
app, or
it's a red herring. I wouldn't call it a manipulation.
yeah,
I'd call it a red herring.
I know. I guess
It's a
it feels like a
distraction from the main
manipulation
point.
if you've already got that in your
Mhm.
head, maybe at that point.
True. We could see it
Um,
as a manipulation, but for a narrative point of view, it would be like, and because a red herring is a distraction from the main point, which is
Yeah.
what that is. So
Sure.
I was like, that's interesting.
But I
Different
noticed that
points of
again
view.
this time, where I was like, oh, that's interesting that they cut from her typing on the app to Ted, then walking and typing on his phone. Great. That was my random thing that just popped in my head.
It's interesting though, because it's like, who was he talking to?
Probably Henry.
Probably, most likely.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there was anything else for me.
Is there anything else you have, Bonnie, at all?
Trying to think. No, I said the idea of that app would not fly in Los Angeles.
No.
That's all. Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, because no
Nope.
photos or anything on there.
Yeah, absolutely not. It would not work out here. That's why I'm like, oh yeah, this is fiction. There's no way this would happen out in LA. There's no, and if it has, it's not successful because I haven't heard about it. But I think I put like, Rebecca, don't smile at the app. You're in danger. And I was like, wait, I met my partner on an app, so I can't totally say that. But keep your head on straight, Rebecca. No, I think, oh, and then Rebecca offering to buy the restaurant. I was like, that's some Bruce Wayne energy right there. I'll just buy
I
it.
noted that too.
Yeah. I love
How'd
that.
you get that house back from the bank? Oh, just bought the bank.
What's your superpower? I'm rich.
I love throughout the show the little subtle references to just how rich she is. Because a lot of people don't realize, well, she's there day to day. You don't think that she's actually that ridiculously rich. But there's a couple of little references where you go, hang on a second. You're a lot richer than we thought you were.
Yeah. Because she's, I think, more subtle about it than Rupert.
Well, Jason said that, I can't remember, he said in an interview at one point that she comes from old money. So she's always lived with money. So she's not, you find with people that have grown up in that kind of world and that with that kind of money, that they don't flaunt it. It's not logos everywhere. You even see it with Keeley, like with Rupert and Keeley in particular. Rupert is all that black and silver and chrome, and things look high end but cheap in a way. It's like, it's the expensive things, not necessarily the classy things. And I love Keeley to death, but she's covered in logos.
Yeah.
So she's earning her money and she's buying the things that she wants to buy, and then she's proud of herself for getting to the point that she's at, but she's also covered in logos. And it's a very clear difference. I think the only time we see Rebecca with a logo is in No Weddings and a Funeral, where she's got a clutch with a logo, but that's pretty much the only time.
Yeah.
It's a good way of putting it.
She doesn't need to flaunt it, is the thing. Because she's never had to live without it, really, I suppose. She sees the quality of things and not necessarily what they cost. Whereas someone like Keeley, who's been working for it, she's had value in the things that she couldn't afford before.
It's a good way of putting it, yeah.
Makes me think about Titanic a little bit, where they're talking about or they're kind of talking about like the old money, new money on that too, and Kathy Bates' character being like the new money person.
Yeah,
Molly
like,
Brown.
Molly Brown,
it's Kathy Bates.
But that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Not that Rebecca is pompous about it. She doesn't. She seems to be quite down to earth, considering. But it's that distinction of, it's always been through her family. And she was rich before she was with Rupert. Like, it's not. She didn't get her wealth.
She didn't earn it from Rupert, basically. So
no, she took it from him.
Yeah, she did. She got more, but she already had quite a bit. Like, that's not.
But even that wasn't about the money.
Yeah.
Just because he was a dick.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
I just want to put it out there. If Mike Myers, unrelated, but just because I love Hannah Waddingham, if Mike Myers does another Austin Powers movie and wants to make her Dr. Evil, can I be Mini-Me, please? It would be... That's all I want. I'm 5'3". We can make it work.
Yeah, there's some slight manipulation in our Richmond Way art. So that, we're
Look,
not
she's a tall, stacked blonde. I am a short, stacked blonde. Why would it? And we're both funny. Why wouldn't this work? Dear Mike Myers, I have an idea for you. Hear me out. It'd be fun.
She would make an amazing camp villain.
Oh yeah. Well,
she'd be so fun. Yeah.
She is a pretty good camp villain in
exactly.
And actually in the Garfield movie too. She did a good job in that.
I haven't seen it yet.
She's the villain in that movie, and she does. I only watched that Garfield movie because, one, Hannah Waddingham is the voice of the villain, and two, Brett Goldstein is the voice of one of her henchmen in it. So I was like, all right, let's get, you got two Ted Lasso people this week. I'm gonna go watch it.
Yeah, I just have my thoughts on celebrities in voiceover roles when the kids don't care. But that's my thought working in that industry. I'm like, I have so many talented friends who could really use it more than this person who probably doesn't. But that's a story for another time. I won't go into that rant right now. It's okay.
I think Bonnie would have been a
Gives
great
probably more for
Garfield.
the adults.
Mm-hmm.
Bonnie
Yeah,
would have been a
kids
great
don't care.
Garfield.
I would have been great. I would have been a great Mario.
Yeah. I mean, you're
I am
also a
also
great Wario
short,
too.
chubby, and Italian. I can't do plumbing, but damn it, I can do the rest of it.
Although, can Mario fix plumbing either? Do we ever see him actually do plumbing?
He's got the overalls. I think that's about it.
He's a plumber. Look, I'm
Yeah,
just
but does he
Mario in the
plumb?
streets, Peach in the sheets. I don't know what to tell you. That's just... I have the blonde hair, Mark. It's fine. That can go into Patreon. I don't care. Although I was Wario for Halloween because somebody wanted to be Mario. It's fine. My mustache stayed on all night. That was months ago. Why am I bringing it up now?
That's a good segue, though, because remember, Roy said that some mustachioed person was going to be meeting him at one point, and he thought it was going to be
Wario.
Wario. So,
Wario.
see?
Yeah.
Or his great aunt Natalie.
Or that too. Or this was one of the things as we're wrapping up for the Don't Call Back, Call Forwards, was that he had said that he dated Gina Gershwin once. And I was like, oh, that'll come back with a beard. But yeah, I just remember that. And then Roy, Rebecca doing the tall thing. That'll be another thing that comes back. Jade, obviously, and then Nate actually asking her out. But then her turning down, she's like, I'm picky. I was like, oh yeah, me too. I was like, okay, Nate. But that's all my stuff for this episode. Of you guys,
I got nothing.
All right. Well, thank you, Hannah, for joining us. Where can people find you online if you want them to find you online at all?
Probably just Twitter. Oh, there's Instagram as well, but I've got the same name pretty much everywhere that if I want to be found, it's got the same name.
And if people are just listening, it's at written with 2 N's dust.
Because it's written in dust.
Oh, there you
where
go.
It comes from. It's actually a Once Upon a Time reference.
Nice. It's a good show. I like that.
Thank you.
All magic comes with a price. And then Bonnie, where can people find you?
VOsuperhero.com. That is VO as in voiceover, not BO as in body odor, just because it makes Mark laugh every time I say it. Yep, there it is. Yeah.
Nice.
All my stuff is there. Yeah.
Nice. And then for this podcast in general, all of our handles are at Richmond Way Pod on all the places, all the things, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, some other futuristic social app that only now exists in 2025, and at richmondwaypod.com, and then patreon.com/the Richmond Way, where you can find probably deleted scenes from this, sidelined scenes from this episode, jokes that Bonnie told in past episodes about clowns over there. You got more discussions about Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman over there. You got interviews usually a month early or over there than they would be on the public feed too. So like Brian brought up earlier, we talked with Mary a couple months ago, talked with the sound designer Kip Smedley, talked with Paul Cripps, the production designer, then spoke with Billy Brimblecon Jr., who's the CEO of Steps of Faith Foundation as well. And we're going to be talking to some other people coming up in the future, so definitely stay tuned for that. Maybe we already talked to them in the past, and you're listening to this or watching this in the future, and you can already watch those in your present time, because time travel. But I think that's going to do it for us at the Richmond Way. Thank everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys all later. Bye.
Bye.
So until next time, folks, be curious, not judgmental, and keep rewatching. This is Ted Lasso signing off. As the man once said, the harder you work, the luckier you get.